Hey, Serenity.
Hi, Carlos. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. How are you? Actually,
Into the machine.
I actually think we're early.
Hey,
David,
Carlos and Derek.
Hold on, Carlos. Let me turn up my volume. Are we supposed to be on today?
You know what? So the meeting, there's some kind of mix-up with the invitation because I'm on the phone with David. So the meeting is actually at 2 p.m. Eastern, but there was some mix-up with the calendar invites that it's at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, thanks, Serenity. How you
Okay.
doing?
Great. Yeah. So anyway, we'll just be on in like 44 minutes instead.
Okay. What I'm gonna do is
Or you can just stay on here. I mean, if you want to. Just
yeah,
stay.
that's what I was gonna suggest. I was gonna stay on. I'll just put myself on mute and
Yeah.
for video and voice.
Okay.
Because I'm hanging out with my family. So
Okay. Yeah, good idea.
but yeah. All right. Thank you
Okay,
very
see you
much. I
later.
appreciate that.
thank you.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
I'll see you
Okay.
later.
All right, Carlos.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Good afternoon, guys. Serenity, Doc, Lewis, how are you guys doing? Oh,
Hey, bro.
I'm speaking on the wrong darn. I got the wrong headphones in. This has been a banner day.
Don't worry about it. I'm making it up for you.
Thank you, and I thank you.
You're welcome.
How you doing?
Me, I'm doing okay. I won't complain, man. I can't complain. It would be illegal for me to complain right now where I'm at.
Be illegal for both of us.
Oh, I'm in St. Vincent, bro. You are not. Hold on.
Yeah. Say that again, Doc.
I said I'm up in the hill in St. Vincent.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're home.
Yeah, man. I'm celebrating Auntie's 90th birthday. She'll be
Oh, sweet.
90 next week.
Sweet.
And hold on, I'll show you where I'm at. Carlos and Serenity might not like it though. It's very picturesque.
Derek, you growing your mustache.
I know, man. I'm growing a whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna shave it tomorrow.
How's everything? How's the family out there?
They're doing good. They're doing good. Hold on, they got noise in the background because I'm outside on the terrace.
Yeah, I think I had put, I don't think, when I looked at the calendar appointment, I had put it for 1 o'clock Eastern when it should be 1 o'clock Central. So hopefully people will come back.
Okay, say that again, Dave.
I had put the calendar invite for 1 o'clock Eastern when it should have been 1 o'clock Central. And hopefully more people will return.
What time do you want us on then? Your time? I mean, what time do you want us on? Because I'm on East Coast time.
Yeah, so it's 2 o'clock Eastern. It's always 2 o'clock Eastern.
Right. That's
always,
that's
yeah. So.
All right. Before you go, take a
Not
glimpse
going
of this.
anywhere. Not going anywhere.
Take
I'm
a
gonna
glimpse
stay
of
here.
this, man.
Yeah, it looks like St. Croix. Oh, look at that beach. I'm so jealous.
How you like that?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. Look at those mountains. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice, Dave.
Yeah,
That's
man.
nice.
You got to come out one time.
One time or 2 times.
Yeah. Once you come the first time, you'll be coming back. Trust me.
I got it. I got it. I got it. You're looking well.
I'm trying to keep up, man. I haven't shaved in 4 days. Auntie's over there tending to the dog. Auntie, wave. It's David. Wave at David. He can see you. Just wave.
Look at that. Man, our island people, boy, I tell you.
Say again?
I said our island people. How is she, 84 now?
No, she's going to be 90 Monday.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Sharp as a tack, telling me put on my slippers before I go downstairs.
Yeah.
Keeping me in deep check.
That's good, man.
Stacy's here. My sister Stacy's
Oh
here
yeah,
too.
Stacy's here too?
Yeah, she's laying down right now, but she's doing good, man.
Tell everybody I said hi.
She set all this up for Auntie's birthday.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Tell her I said hi. Tell Stacy and your auntie I said hi. And auntie I said hi.
Okay. She heard you. She waved back. I'm gonna go on mute, video and voice mute. I'll be back on 2. Serenity and Carlos, thank you.
just want to let everyone know that we'll be starting in approximately, it looks like about 12 minutes. So we put the wrong date up, or time actually by mistake. And we've corrected that, and we expect to start at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. Future shortly. Afternoon, everyone. We're about 4 minutes to the hour to 2 o'clock. We're still waiting for our guest to come, and she should be here shortly. In the meantime, I hope everyone's doing well on this Saturday, the 23rd of July. Today, we're speaking with Qiana Hicks. She's the founder of Pathway Forward. She's also an IT leader, a speaker, an author. So we're looking forward to this conversation with her today. Stop sharing that for a minute. Oh, yeah. Am I still sharing here?
Good afternoon, David. How are you?
I'm well. Michael, how are you, sir?
Hanging in there.
Good to hear that. Everything's well with you, the family, the life? Everything's going good?
Yes, sir. Everything's staying afloat.
That's one way to put it for sure. One way to put it for sure. So happy. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for coming and joining us today. And where's my screen here? Stop that for a minute. Okay, good. I mean, sometimes navigating some of these things are a little bit tricky. Hey, Serenity, how are you?
Good day, everyone.
Hey, Serenity.
Hello. Hi, Qiana.
There's Qiana.
Hello there. Good day.
Let me go there. Let me go here. And let me go there. Qiana, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are in for a treat when they hear you speak. That is for certain. Don't crunch your nose. That's
I hope I can live up to that. Thank you.
I've heard you speak before, and I think it's I think what you have to offer is awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to as more folks file in here, but we're at 1 o'clock, so I'm going to get started with our normal introduction. And I go through a couple of other things, and let me go through that, Qiana, and then I'll hand it over to Serenity, and she will take you through the conversation. And more people will pile in as we go through the process. So anyway, today is Saturday, July 23rd, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. I'll make sure I get that right next time, right? And so today we're speaking with Qiana Hicks. Qiana is the founder of Pathway Forward. She's also an IT leader, and she'll get into that later in her interview with Serenity. She's also an author and a speaker. And as she goes through the conversation with Serenity, who is one of our mentees, well, Serenity is more than a mentee now. She's also a mentor. So that's the process that we go through here at formerly the Hustlers Club, that's now Cyversity Impact Engage. So let me just run through, see if I can find my cursor. Here's what we go through every week. This is Cyversity, which hosts our Cyversity Impact conversation. And Cyversity is a not-for-profit, a national 501c3 not-for-profit that consistently looks to achieve the representation of women, minority, and underrepresented minorities, all of whom are matriculating through the security industry at varied levels. Our programs here are designed to foster equity, recruitment, retention, and of course, inclusion. I just skipped over a page. We are a membership organization. We just started our membership in January of 2022, where students invest $20 a year in themselves to be a part of this organization, and professionals do the same for 100. So we think a small investment for unlimited career opportunities, networking opportunities, employment opportunities is something that you gain when you join Cyversity. As a membership organization, there are benefits, right? So some of the benefits are working through our Explore career exploration process, where we understand your career moves, your career aspirations, your career desires, and we help you effectively move toward them. We also have skills assessment, competency cores, which allows us to see where you are in your process, what you've accomplished, what you know, what you don't know, so that we can properly guide you through your path. We also do a lot of development through our Cyversity Engage events, one of which is going to be our national conference, and I'll have to put that up next month, national conference in November. November, we'll have our national conference in Orlando, Florida. If you go to our website, you'll see the links for that. We also offer scholarships, cybersecurity training, and mentorship programs. And lastly, with all of our members and all of our mentees and mentors, we've got a huge network, and networking gives you opportunities to speak to our corporate sponsors across the board. And of course, we've got 7 chapters now and growing. The topics we cover are career development, career spotlighting, transitioning careers, tech leadership, and tech talks. As you can see on the screen, we've got a couple of months that we go through where we do highlight specific ideals and agendas through those months. Coming up in September is Latino Heritage Month. And you see we have celebrated LGBTQ Pride Month, Asian American and Pacific Islander and Black History Month, and more to come. The ground rules are simple. We always know that the folks that come, we have to mute our phones to avoid any background noise. I know Derek is in St. Vincent. Everybody should be jealous of Derek because he's in St. Vincent today. And of course, he'll mute his background noise with all of the family that's there today. This call takes about 60 minutes, sometimes longer, because there are more questions that come up from the group, from the attendees, questions and answers, of course, at the end of the conversation. And I will put in the chat box, put your questions in the chat box, but I prefer you to come off chat, off mute, ask your question to Qiana directly. The session is being recorded and will be distributed on demand on Cyversity's website. This is the link at the end of our conversation today. I'm going to ask you all to go to this link and place your review, your overview of what how this conversation went. If the topic was relevant and useful and made sense to you, and you gained something from it above all. This is our next couple of interviews. Of course, today is Qiana Hicks. Next week is Heather Gant Evans. She is the CISO of SailPoint. When you get a chance to listen to CISO, you're going to hear a lot of similarities between her path and Qiana's path, and how they both become the industry leaders that they have become. In September, it's Guillermo Diaz. He's the chairman of the board for HITECH, Hispanic Information Technology Executive Council. And there's some real serious conversations that will go on there, especially around Latino Heritage Month. And of course, in October, there's Danielle DeSalo. She'll be interviewed by one of our mentees, or also now turned mentor, William Shepard. And we take, November, we'll be interviewing, and I have to put that up, all of the chapter presidents. So come back for that. And in we take December off, and in January, the chairman of Cyversity will be our first interview. This is who we're talking to today. Qiana is our speaker today, and she will be interviewed by Serenity. As typical, I get out of the way and let Serenity and Qiana have the floor to do the interview. Serenity, I'll hand it over to you now.
Yeah, thank you, David. Okay, great. Well, so Qiana, I know you have written a book and a workbook, and I just put Qiana's links to Qiana's book, Life in Its Rawest Form, A True Story of Perseverance and Triumph. It's on Amazon, so I put the links to that in the chat.
Thank you, Serenity.
Yeah, because I have to say that I did read Qiana's book. It was so compelling that I actually read it in one sitting
Wow.
in a few hours.
Wow.
So I was like really impressed. It's funny because I had actually discovered it and bought it just before I talked to Qiana a couple of weeks ago. And then I read it and I was like, wow, I wish I'd read it before I talked to Qiana. But anyway, it was very, very inspiring. And Qiana, I really admire you for having been through so much in your life and having overcome so many obstacles. It's so amazing that it's like a miracle that you're here talking to us today. So, just so glad to talk to you and see you as an inspiration. So I was wondering if you could please tell us about your journey, especially what inspired you to pursue IT? And can you just tell us about your career journey?
Yeah, sure. And thank you, Serenity, for those powerful words. Thanks. It still goes a long way because it's so easy to kind of go down a path that you become like familiar with and you kind of become accustomed to. So it's not easy trying to carve out a different pathway that can lead to hearing the words that, you're inspiring, thank you, overcoming. And so when I hear that, it still means a lot to me, as if I was writing my experiences back in 2014 when I started. So I appreciate that. What inspired me to get into IT? I really didn't know much about IT when I decided this was the path I was going to take. I thought I was picking a career. I became a young mother. I was pregnant at 14. And I did not know what my life was going to be like. And I knew that it couldn't be the way that I grew up because I saw the outcome of that. And so in high school, when all I could give my kid at that age and myself was really, all I can offer was my efforts and ability to pay attention, to utilize resources within my community and my reach that were being provided that could lead to, a better outcome and turning my circumstances around for the better. So I had up until that point wanted to be a teacher, and I just loved kids and I loved education, and I just dreamed of teaching it. And when by that time I had learned enough about teaching and the education career path to know that probably wouldn't be sustainable at this time in my life, right? Not saying that I have to completely take it off the table. That just may have to be something later in life after my career that I do with my education teach. So I knew that I had to figure out, well, what can help, what can create sustainability so that I can provide for my son and myself and just, continue to open doors. And all I could do is really now take advantage of the resources being provided in my school that prior to me becoming a mother, I would just sign up for them just to get out of class and socialize with friends or something. I didn't see the opportunity in really paying attention to them. So it wasn't until I had this great responsibility that it forced me to see what those events or resources had to offer. So I attended a career fair in high school, I think maybe 10th or 11th grade. And there were several different career professionals, and the ones that stood out most to me, they intrigued me a lot, was the IT professionals. It was just something about what they did, the coding, understanding a different language, understanding the power of what you can create with certain programming languages, understanding the technicalities behind it, like, the hosting environments, the infrastructure, all of that. It just was so complex that it intrigued me. And then just to be this code savvy person, it was just really impressive to me. So they intrigued me most, that stood out to me, and I pursued learning more. So after that event, that career event, I spoke with our education administrator or the program coordinator who put that on, and I asked if they could connect me to those professionals, because I wanted to go like and experience more and learn more. So I was able to get like a day in the life experience with them, where I was able to go in, shadow them, see what they did, and see what like real life experience was like as an IT professional. And then when I learned more about that profession and how broad it was, and there's so many different areas that make up information technology, I went to our community college. I worked with my education or academic counselor at my high school, who then connected me with an academic counselor, I guess, or kind of like enrollment person at the community college, local community college. And that's where I learned about their programs in IT. And so from there, you know, kind of long story short, I found the program in IT that I wanted to pursue from a associate junior college standpoint. And I kind of kept down that path. So that's what kind of led me to IT. And then during my junior college experience, it was, even though I went on to get a bachelor's in computer science and my master's, that experience in junior college and IT was the best. That's where I kind of developed more of a passion for IT. And while I was going and I was pursuing my junior college, my associate's degree in computer networking and administration, I had got so many different certifications. I was able to start working in IT while I was going to school. So I just kept building from that methodically.
That's great. I mean, I think that's so wonderful to hear, Qiana, you know, and I think if people read Qiana's book, you'll just be so amazed how she even got to that point, because, you know, as you mentioned in the book, you grew up in really, really dire poverty, you know, and your mother, it didn't help that, you know, your mother was addicted to drugs, and, you know, father kind of out of the picture, and, you know, a lot of chaos, right? Like, so you're coming to all this from chaos. So it's not like Qiana's making it sound easy, but actually your path was not very straight at all. So it's even actually amazing that you got to that point. And plus, like you said, you were a teenage mother. You know, it's not like you just had to do your homework every day and that's it, right? Which is hard enough, right? But you were overcoming quite a lot of things in so many areas of your life at once. So I'm wondering, like, did you have any mentors? Because our group is you know, made up of people that have been mentored, and I just know how important mentors have been to me. Like David was my mentor when I was first breaking into cybersecurity, and, you know, continues to be supportive. And so I'm wondering, like, what role, if any, mentors have played in your life, and also, do you also mentor others currently too?
Yeah. So yeah, there were a lot of environmental barriers I had to navigate through. And to your point, so that didn't make it an easy, straight path. So having mentors to help you navigate some of those barriers are really important. I didn't always have that during that period, but that doesn't mean I didn't realize the importance of having that. It was something that I wish I had. You could say I had mentors in different forms and in different seasons or periods of my journey. There were people that counseled me at school, right? That who were invested in my academic health and performance, right? And so they understood to a certain degree some of the environmental barriers and my circumstances. And so they would give me advice and counsel on how to get through this path that I'm charting with pursuing an education. And then, you know, even getting through my high school and meeting all those requirements and so forth. So they counseled and guided me, and you know, that's a form of mentorship. And then even in the community and other settings where I interacted with professionals or adults, I would get throughout different times in different situations, I would get good advice from people. And those things, even though they weren't consistent in my life, that information and that advice that they gave me stuck with me, because I knew I wasn't getting that information or guidance elsewhere. So it was more important for me to, even if I just crossed paths with a person one time and they gave me some great advice, I made sure I made good with it. And then as I got into my career, I was able to get in the door where this is where you have to make it a point to look for and seek out people, like more so senior of the career that you're aspiring to achieve, and kind of allow them to become your mentors. And so a lot of the senior engineers, and some of even the leaders within the organization that I worked in, they kind of became mentors indirectly. And then there were some that were just, kind of, yeah, I'm going to learn from you. I'm going to shadow you. And they kind of became my mentor and helped mold me into the engineering path that I pursued.
That's great. Yeah. Also wondering, like, what inspired you to start your company after, many years in IT, starting from help desk, right? And then, going, just being promoted from there. Like, what inspired you to finally start your own company, Pathway Forward? And can you tell us more about it? Like,
Sure.
yeah.
Yes. So I did start, like when I mentioned, when I was in the junior college and I was going for my associate's degree, I was able to start a job within a company. It was in their IT help desk area. And so I chose that path. I wanted an education in networking. I wanted to get a broad spectrum of IT because it's just so broad. And so I wanted to understand the hardware components and how that worked with the information side, right? And so I started my early education and experience on that. And so I did a lot of work with networks, LAN and WAN, a lot of building, assembling computers, and a lot of administration with accounts and setting up, inside setting up back then it was like file systems and, within NT and so forth. And so I wanted to learn and understand that because that was important to know how, software languages interacted and worked with these hardware components that makes the whole ecosystem go around. And then, so I started in networking. I started in a help desk for a company. And then I just kept building my experience so that I can get a full, understanding of IT, from development to production operations to Q&A to DBA to even dabbling into security, just to get an understanding of it, because you have to work there, your counterparts, even when you're working in IT. So it's good to have an understanding of all the areas that you directly interact with. And then, so I just built over 21 years, just experience in those different areas. And I realized maybe like this was just about a couple years ago, 2.5 years ago, I started thinking about my business, Pathway Forward. And I wanted to know, well, what could I do with the skills that I've acquired? I feel like I'm not getting the doors open that I had hoped for in my career. That was kind of a challenge. I felt like I hit a roadblock with, getting opportunities further than my role as a senior software engineer leader. I wanted to still continue and go beyond that. And the opportunities just weren't presenting themselves. I felt like I exhausted ample amount of, efforts to try to get recognized, starting with my performance. I performed higher than my peers and counterparts within my organization and across the organization so that I can be easily noticeable. But even then, that still didn't help open doors and create an advancement path for me. So I realized that I had to kind of, again, carve my own pathway out. And for me, that was starting my own business. But not just starting any business, it's how do I kind of use the experience and education that I acquired to help people like my younger self back when I started. And it doesn't just have to be in IT. So I realized that I had enough experience and education to build a sustainable business model that could help other youth and young adults from underserved and underrepresented communities carve their own pathway out of their circumstances and situation through education and through career preparation, advancement, and development. And then using technology, how can I use technology, which is this trade and commodity that I've learned for 21 years, how can I use that to advance this business that I had in mind? So I want to create a roadmap and a pathway for youth, meaning me guiding them, but I need the tool to connect them to a lot of the resources and services and support that they will need to interact and work with that guide that I will provide them. And then also make sure that there's training and employment opportunities as well that they can connect to, so that they can apply what they're learning throughout their journey. And so that's how Pathway Forward was formed. And yeah.
How old is the company right now? Like how many years ago did you start this?
Been fully gone to market. I'm starting that around Q3, Q4 of this year, but I've been in the process of creating all the requirements or specifications and building all the contents and the plan and the strategy for the last 2.5 years.
Wow, that's a pretty big project, Qiana.
It's massive.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you kind of touched on this. I'm just really impressed by your resilience. And I'm wondering, like, what kind of, you touched on this a little bit, but it seems like you did come across some obstacles, like you worked really hard and you knew that you were really like doing superior work, but yet maybe like you weren't getting promoted or recognized like you wish that you know that you deserve to, you know? And so I'm like, can you speak to us about what other like challenges and opportunities did you experience as being like me, just both a woman and a minority in both your career, you know, in your career in IT?
Yeah, it was lonely. I started, early on, right out of high school. And so that was, I'm gonna age myself, but that was before, the 2K. So that was like in the 90s. And I was the youngest engineer probably in their whole history, but female and then Black. And so I was working with a lot of older white men who dominated that career, that industry. And I was really lonely, but luckily I had the personality that I didn't see any barriers that was going to stop me from trying, right? And so I made them know who I was. I made them realize that I'm a part of the team. And that was because of me just constantly showing up and asking them, for work, can I shadow you? Can I take that tedious work that you don't want to do that you've been doing for the last 20 years? Let me do it, right? You have to look for those opportunities to kind of grow your legs and strengthen your legs, but also let them know that I'm here, I'm a team player, I want to learn. So when they saw that, I think that kind of maybe allowed them to have a different perspective and see me more as someone that they can invest in as a team player. And so, but there were still challenges and barriers back then that, I probably was oblivious to, and I didn't realize that until later. But there wasn't a lot of me coming through the door anymore, and there weren't a lot of attempts to get more diversity to come through the door in that industry. So I knew that was something that if I furthered my career in this, I had to do something to be a part of whatever committee or process to change that. And then, even as I advanced in the ranks based on, my performance and based on my portfolio, I still faced barriers. There were still people where, because I was like a unicorn in this industry, I still had to go against people that shouldn't have been, something that it shouldn't have been something I had to compete with, right? And so I recognized them for what they were. I recognized those circumstances for what they were. And I knew that if I couldn't do anything about it at that time, that was something that I definitely had to change in my future, because, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so impressed how you took your circumstances. I mean, even like in your book, which is, like an autobiography in a way, but you also wrote it. I was so impressed how you wrote it to help other people that, other like young people that could be in the same circumstance, like things like not having enough to eat because your mom like sold, like anything that was valuable to buy drugs. And you just had so much resilience. Like, I think starting at an early age, you realize, okay, this is not right. I don't like this. What can I do about it? And you helped your siblings, and I thought that was like very impressive that somehow you had that even when you were a kid. And then I think, did you feel like that really served you well as you were an adult and you're in the working world and in this kind of circumstance?
Yeah, I think that whatever that was, I don't know, characteristic or just even care, followed me, right? Because obviously my parents must have done something right to kind of innately put that in me, or maybe that was just something that was divinely in me from birth. But I recognize that it's important that when something doesn't feel right, my way of kind of helping to change whatever that may be is to understand the impact and effects that it has, and then put myself in shoes of others, and then how can I help them not experience that or alleviate that as much as possible and make their path a little easier for them or more pleasant or equitable. And so this has just been something that's been passionate with me because of the disadvantage that I faced that ended up being an advantage, because then I understood later how important it is to kind of help break those barriers or combat those challenges for others.
Yeah, like, do you ever feel like it was a challenge for you to be taken seriously when you entered the working world? I mean, you mentioned that you were like the youngest engineer, besides being a woman and a double minority, but what did you do about that? I think you mentioned some of that, like what kind of helped you have that kind of resilience that we could all use when facing those kinds of things?
There's a lot of preconceived notions that I'm sure that my peers then, and even throughout my journey, had of me, right? Just because of what they knew, whether it was correct information or incorrect, and just biases or assumptions, or just false information, or just them not knowing because they don't experience diversity enough to know, right? So there was a lot of preconceived notions, I'm sure, as I, throughout the different courses of my journey and career. But that's where I knew I couldn't be naive to that. And that's where I knew I had to kind of perfect or hone in on my craft. I had to become a subject matter expert and really know my ish, so that I didn't meet up to those preconceived notions that they had of me. So I studied languages. I studied the white pages back then. They'd have like white pages about the different languages and the different commands and syntax, kind of like like the index of some sort of referential book or something. I studied those languages. I practiced in my sandbox a lot. I learned from others, the experts. I had to make sure I became a subject matter expert and really knowledgeable in my craft, so that, I could break those, I guess, notions that they had of me and exceed their expectations. And it's not that I was trying to prove them wrong. But that's what made me feel confident. I had to convince myself I was the man for the job. And if I didn't know my ish, then how can I convince someone else? So you really have to really start living the person that you want to become. And that means, going where they live, going where they hang out, learning the lingo, find out about some of the challenges they're having in that industry or in that space, learning how they're navigating through those challenges, taking, back then it was CBT courses and any other training that can help, but you really have to develop yourself, and it has to be a constant thing.
Wow, that's like pretty tough, because I mean, you were still a young mom at this point, like very young. And I was so impressed about how in the book you talked about how you were so proud when you could finally buy your own house, and you're so young, like 20, I think it was like 20, 24, 23,
Yeah.
24, something. And, in Minneapolis, and that actually struck me because I lived in Minneapolis, for a little over a year recently, and I was very impressed, that you talked about how you were the only the only person of color like in the neighborhood, and with the young mom. And so this wasn't really that it wasn't very easy like what you were doing. It's to do all this extra studying, it sounds like you had to do, and try to even figure out what to study, even just for you to feel confident and competent, like you said. So how did you do that? Like, how did you stay the course during all this?
Well, and just like any job, the reality, you have to stay relevant. You have to be able to compete. And so I knew that I had to become good at what I was hired to do, right? And I had to show and demonstrate the potential to even take more, go beyond that. And then I realized the value in that. Whoa, that makes me very much more marketable, and I can negotiate, my worth, right? My skills. And so I connected those. Experience equals, high commodity, right? It equals you become more marketable. It equals you get to take on more opportunities, meaning advancement. So that was important to me, and that afforded a better quality of life and additional resources to live better for myself and my son and my family. And so, I grew up, and when I first moved to Minnesota, lived in an impoverished area. And when we used to go to church, Sunday school, and this bus would come pick us up to take us to church for Sunday school. And we used to drive through, different areas of that, I guess, side of town. And probably a mile from this impoverished area that I lived in was it was like sunny and bright. It was totally different, different socioeconomic class, beautiful homes. I was just in awe as I would drive through that every Sunday. And I would only dream of living in that area or living among them or like that. And as I got older, that community or that neighborhood was always just special to me. And I would always just drive there, dreaming of living there. And one day, because I had built experience and because I became more marketable, which opened more doors for me to take on more opportunities and advance, I had the resources to then afford or even take a shot at living in that dream, that area that was just a dream for me. And I, after years of driving through there, as I was progressing in life, one day I had enough qualifications to buy the newest home in that area, only because the previous one had burned down, so they redeveloped. But and then that was just the blessing that I was able to buy my first home. And it was a great experience. I think there was a lot of red tape in that area still to this day, but just to be a part of being able to enter in that because I qualified, and because of the path that I took, it was something that I wanted to show my son and my family and others who could see me.
Yeah, because it wasn't easy for you. You were a single mom, a young single mom too. And, you had the experience of working minimum wage jobs, and you knew it wasn't going to cut it think you mentioned in the book, you know, to raise your son, your young son, and you didn't want him to have to go through the same poverty that you grew up in, and also like you know, like live in the same kinds of neighborhoods where you knew that he'd be exposed to certain risks, right? Like danger and chaos. And so were there ever times when you felt like it was never never going to happen, like you're never gonna to make it, and you just kind of wanted to give up and quit and like be complacent and be like, oh, you know, this is like what life has thrown me, and you know,
Oh,
poor me, right? Like, did you ever feel like that? And what did you do? Like, what did you do about it? I mean, you told us some of what you did about it. Like, we know some of your path, like later on, right?
yeah, that came, that I don't know what you would call it. Those thoughts came often. It came often, especially when you're struggling, especially when you're in the heap of hardship and you're working towards something that you can't reach nor see. It's only hope and belief, right? And you haven't seen anyone that you've been around your entire life achieve that. So it's like, am I chasing something that just isn't reality? And so that feeling would come up upon me often. And I knew I owed it to myself to just see. It's kind of like a hypothesis that you're testing just to see if there's any truth to it. If I stayed the course, because I bet on if I got an education and if I develop these skills like this trade or commodity, you know, then it could afford me, you know, and I can make more money at a different job because it pays higher because of these skills and so forth. And then I can keep building on that. Is that true? And so I owed it to myself just to see if it was true. But it was hard when, you know, going through that journey because it felt like it wasn't happening. Because, you know, that's a 1 to 6 year journey, right? And every day of living impoverished or facing hardship, those are long days. And so you got those long days for 6 days. It was really overwhelming to continue staying the course amidst all the other day-to-day challenges and reality that I had to face and take on, all the obligations and responsibility and the hardship that came with that. But I had to convince myself and use common sense. And this was, even though I was chasing a dream that I didn't know if it would prove true or not, I did have common sense, you know, and so common sense I was able to figure out using my common sense, I could either suffer like this for a lifetime, or I can make this sacrifice for 1 to 6 years to see if that truly can pan out to a better life. Me having a better job, making better income, sustainable income, sustainability, opportunities, and more doors opening, and just continuing to build. So, you know, you have to weigh the pros and cons, and you have to reason with yourself. That was a plain old common sense choice I had to make. And so I went and I put my bets on, okay, make this sacrifice for 1 to 6 years. But even when you start this journey, like I told you, you start learning things that becomes valuable. So your life improves right away. One, I started living poor with a purpose because I knew there was an end date to that, right? But 2, I started acquiring skills and certifications. So right in the door, that started getting me $5 more than my hourly wage. So my life kept improving once I decided to take that journey. And so that's what I kind of teach and advise and coach in some of the guidebook that I created, is that, you know, your life will change and improve. One, you got more of a purpose, and it shows if you feel like it. Every day I felt different. Like I felt like I was working towards something. I had something to achieve versus before I decided and set my mind to go down that path. I didn't have a purpose. I had very little hope, and it was dark days. You know, it was hard. Like I didn't want to live like that forever, and I didn't want to have to take my son through that. So it was hopeless days. But when you realize that there could be a pathway out, that changed the game. You know, every day you're living now with a purpose, and what used to hurt you, now you're like, this is temporary. I'll make it stretch, and just come with a different mindset.
Is that why you named your company Pathway Forward, Qiana?
It is. It is.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I can see that. So, you know, we have a lot of people that are changing careers and trying to break into cybersecurity right now. So I'm wondering if you have any words of encouragement for anyone embarking on a similar journey to a better, brighter future.
Yeah, you know, I used to in IT, and we used to program. We had to work with the cybersecurity teams and engineers. But I used to always think of them like they're the goats. They're the real guys. They got the good stuff. They have the interesting things. They have the badass code that is like militant, right? They can find the terrorists. They can find the, you know, all the bad stuff. And so that was exciting because, you know, the thrill, and then just the sophistication, sometimes the covertedness that they had to, you know, some of that stuff was covert that you just you didn't know about. You know, you're working and you don't realize that your applications and environments, they're sitting inside of like a bubble of a lot of computation of different sources and different resources that are constantly fighting and combating off the safety and integrity of my world inside of that bubble. And so and then when you come into contact with that, I guess those services, right? It's like, wow, it's mind-boggling, because you didn't know that every day they were an integral part of what you did. You just didn't know that until something happened where that had to have been presented to you. So it takes a lot of intelligence. It's so cool. It's different. And I just was always inspired by cybersecurity. It's a niche, and it's a skill that's very unique, and it's needed everywhere in this world. So there's always opportunities, and then just exponential opportunities to grow in cybersecurity. So I've always admired that part, that segment of IT. It's a specialty. You can kind of look at it like in what are those certain special operations in like the real military? That's kind of what cybersecurity is in IT. It's special operations that nobody knows about. That you got to use retina scans and fingerprints, and you know, you don't even know people are watching you in your neighborhood. That's a part of a certain clearance. Like it's G4 classified.
That's great. I'm so glad that you didn't give up, Qiana. You know, and you're here to encourage everyone and tell them about your journey. And you know, I mean, I think everything you would have accomplished. Yeah. I'm wondering if our audience members have any questions, because I can certainly think of a lot of questions to ask Qiana. But does anybody here have any questions that they'd like to ask? You can either put in the chat, or as David said, you know, we'd love it if you come on camera and ask your question directly to Qiana.
Hey, Derek, you're breaking up. So if you have a question, you might want to put it in the chat. If not, so that Serenity can read it, because you're breaking up a little bit. But I see Jason. I got like 7 questions I wrote down, Qiana. But nonetheless, you know, back to you, Serenity. You got the calm.
Well, I want to read Laron's comment that I don't have a question, but I do want to say how impressed I am by this young woman.
Thank you, Laron.
Yeah, wait till you read her book, then you'll be like 10,000 times more impressed, because Qiana's being she's being very humble right now.
You know, I think there's a lot of people that are overcomers, and we just don't get to hear from them enough. And so I'm hoping I can shed some spotlight on that, within our digital platform and Pathway Forward. They will have an opportunity to use their voice through blogging, through communication. And so I would love, and so hopefully I'll be able to open the door for them to use their voice and experience to help other people overcome too, by inspiring and encouraging them and sharing their testimonies. That's one of the future MVPs of Pathway Forward.
Now that you've mentioned that, Serenity, can I jump in for a minute?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. So now that you've mentioned that, I'd like you to speak a little bit about Pathway Forward and how that's going to help folks matriculate through their cybersecurity journey and the mentorship that you're going to be applying. Because I know that there are mentors on this platform, today, that they're here today. Some of them work with me on some of the other things I'm doing, but also it may be able to help you as well. So speak about Pathway Forward, please.
Yeah, so it's very universal. So regardless of what career path you are pursuing or you're not sure of, it will help you methodically guide you through the typical journey and experience one must take in order to learn about any future career path and journey, right? And there's a lot that goes in between that. So the roadmap, which is based on my experience and knowledge and what worked for me and what didn't and what I wish I had access to, are kind of all described in this guide and roadmap journey in a way where I'm coaching and advising you on a lot of the things that you talked about, a lot of the different phases, with starting from just discovering to exploring more and assessing more information about what you aspire, where your interests are, because information and awareness is how you prepare yourself and position yourself for those opportunities. You have to know what's expected of this person in this career in order to be qualified as a professional or qualified to apply for an opportunity, right? So the awareness, the assessment, the building and developing of that, and making that a part of your focus and your goal is building on what you learned that's required in that career, including the education aspects and components, including connecting with mentors or career professionals, which hopefully will become your mentors, so that they can start also teaching you about important things about that industry and that job and the skills and so forth, so that that can become a part of your focus, your kind of like your goals and objectives that you're working on, and building that experience, so that when it comes to opportunities for like internship, or even when you've gotten through the course and you're ready to start applying and you get that interview, you're speaking of someone that's like you've had experience in there for at least 1 to 2 to 3 years, which is going to get you, it's going to make you stand out and increase your chances of getting hired, and not just hired, but hired at a more experienced starting point too. So that's what we talk about and go through in the journey of Pathway Forward. And it does come with, there's a mentorship model as part of Pathway Forward, general mentoring, and then focused career mentoring in the path that they're taking.
Great, thank you. Back to you, Serenity.
Oh, I see Ian has a question. Ian, would you like to ask your question directly? If not, I can read it from the chat.
He's a super scientist. Come on, give it to us, Ian.
Oh, Ian, what are your goals for expanding your company through burgeoning cybersecurity?
Okay.
Oh, here comes Ian.
I just wanted to be curious about the long-term goals of your company. That is a very ambitious, accomplished a lot. You have great driving vision, obviously, and basically, where do you see this taking your company forward, given that the cybersecurity field is expanding by leaps and bounds without industry. Basically, it's a huge, wide open, vast niche that some of your ambition could go virtually anywhere and get their company reestablished.
not sure I caught every word, Ian, but I think I got the gist of it. I hope to use Pathway Forward as a platform that can be career focused in an agnostic way, if that makes sense. So my goal is to have a focused path for various careers, STEM careers, which includes cybersecurity, different engineering careers, and different industry careers, trade as well. And my goal is to bring the coaches and the experts and the mentors who are well-versed and experts in that field, and to find a lot of the online materials, content, and find the events too, to bring into the platform so that we can provide those resources and services and events and opportunities to the youth that's pursuing the different careers. So if we take cybersecurity for an example, how I see Pathway Forward helping to bring light to that is by having a focused path journey based on that industry. And that includes a lot of focused cohorts, programs, workshops, webinars, employment opportunities and experience, a lot of online materials and content, and a lot of being connected to a lot of things offline that's tied to that industry. I see using Pathway Forward in the future as a platform to be that bridge, if that makes sense.
Yes, I understand. You want to be in a way a hub, so a massive, shall we say, career hub, so to speak, where basically you collate information from across the net, across press relations and the like, and complete it at the disposal of youthful aspirants in STEM fields to say, okay, by these actual opportunities here presented, as well as possibly by these examples, which can use a template to guide for it, we can pursue this path, this trajectory to go to the vicinity of your desired destination, something like that.
Yeah, essentially, yes. And I don't want to just feed stuff, right? They have to have a purpose and they have to fit within the journey. I have to provide the resources and experiences and events that leads to a journey, right? That strategically and methodically leads to advancing towards the target, if that makes sense.
Yes, hence putting the challenge of actually collating all that vast information so they can take this vast form of information and basically break it down so that we can create these individualized paths for individual aspirants, so their specific goals as well as their demonstrated ability.
It looks like Jason Quick is raising his hand too.
Yeah. Jason, would you like to come on video to ask your question?
I know, Carlos, you came on video, so I know you had a question. You better raise your hand too, Carlos.
Oh.
You can go next, Carlos.
Earlier you talked about going to market in Q3, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the Pathway Forward app and I guess your plans to release that, as well as what institutions or organizations do you plan on pitching or pushing that app towards?
So my markets are those who are youth and young adult facing, right? And who has a need, right? So that includes, so when I say youth facing organizations, that's one market, but there's a number of different segments within that market. And then you have the market of post-secondary education institutions, right? That has a need for more minority or diverse students, right? Enrolling and also completing their programs successfully, right? And then you have the workforce market. You have businesses who are in need of different skill sets, diverse skill sets, and diverse people with diverse backgrounds that today and probably for a long time has been a challenge with them acquiring right? So those are the different markets. And the youth facing kind of organization market, my primary market, that is where they want to help change and help people from underserved and underrepresented communities be exposed to different career options and different career paths. So a lot of these organizations have a focus or mission around readiness, and that includes post-secondary education readiness, as well as career readiness. And post-secondary education doesn't just stop with college, right? It also includes those trades and, paths and entrepreneurial paths. We need to open more career opportunities to all youth, but especially this demographic. And then so those youth-facing organizations with that mission to help, they are in need of some tools. Not saying that they don't do a good job with it today on how they prepare and ready these students for education after high school and career, preparing, planning, and developing, which includes all that discovery, exploring, assessing, applying, and so forth. Is just that there's a need for a better way, right? And so this platform and curriculum, combined with their already great efforts, could help make a greater impact for them. Does that make sense? And then so by us having a more structured path and journey for them to take, and which includes a lot of the exploring and discovering and setting and laying the foundation and building, now post-secondary education institutions and careers have now an insight on this continuous funnel of diverse skills and future talent, future workforce talent coming down this pipeline that they now can connect to. And so then they're like, we're going to start investing because we really want to sharpen their skills. So by the time they get to this end of the journey, they'd be more qualified for us to hire, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and just the last part, when do you plan on releasing the Pathward Forward application, like the app?
So different features and capabilities of the app will be available or, become available and rolled out at different times between starting like August throughout the end of the year. So my goal is to be able to roll out my first MVP by Q4. And there's certain features within that first minimal viable product or MVP that will align with the journey. And then, subsequent MVPs will roll out throughout
Good stuff.
next year.
Good stuff,
Okay,
Qiana.
thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I like that. I'm sorry, Jason. Apologies, sir.
No.
Los, you came off mute.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say thank you, Qiana, for taking the time to talk to us. I have a comment and a question. I first like that you talked about your experience at the junior college, because that's how I got my that's how I learned basically like IT and like technology. And I think like junior college is such an underrated way to get into IT, because like it's usually the junior college is a small class, and it's sometimes like just like an instructor, and like my class was like 20 people, so we were able to like really ask questions, get that hands-on experience. So like I always tell people, like if you have a chance, like go to like a junior college and go from there. So I really like that you mentioned that. And then my question is, especially since you talked about it, I mean, it was pretty much when you first started, it was pretty much just like you and just like a bunch of white people. And how did you not allow like all the like the, it seems like you have so much stacked against you. Like how did you allow like that not to weigh on you, not to like get like the imposter syndrome that's always talked about, and just to keep pushing on and keep moving forward? Because you could have stopped easily, but I mean now, and you're still going. So how did you, what allowed you to keep pushing forward?
Good question. Thank you for asking, Carlos. And thank you also, Jason, for your great questions too. I forgot to Thank you before you went on mute. Those are good questions. Just to answer the first one about the junior college, like junior college is so underrated, like you said, and underestimated, but by far it was the best learning experience, hands-on experience. I was working with true real developers. I was working with programmers that were in the field, working for IBM, working for all these different industries. And we started coding on, there were IBM machines. We were OS 400s, AS 400s, which you guys probably don't know about, big mainframe machines, big plotter printers, and having to sift through every line on this big plotter paper for your error that's not allowing your code to compile and run. I didn't learn that in my 4-year degree. I learned that in my associate's degree. And then, so when I was able to take my junior degree to the department within the company, I started in customer service for this company because I knew they had a department in IT. So now I had a focus and an aim. And so when I was getting ready to graduate with my associates, I applied in their IT department, but I was able to speak so much of the lingual and share so much of the experience I learned in that associate's junior college degree. So I think everybody should honestly go to junior college route because it prepares you for a 4-year university. But 4-year universities are so conservative. They're not as relaxed where you can have that different type of experience in a junior college with a little smaller classes and more real relaxed kind of professors, right? And it's a different ball game in the university level, and it's more, I guess, bureaucratic. So anyhow, that's my soapbox. I'll get off that. But to your point about feeling like, honestly, it wasn't until 2014 when I started writing my book, and I went on and got my computer and started writing a book when I was traveling. So I was a senior manager in software development for a huge airline company of this entire world in our military. And it was great. It was a great experience. And I worked really hard to get there. And it was my performance each year that allowed me to be picked among leaders, CEOs, CFOs, CTOs to go on this 5-star retreat where we got some of the best world-renowned leadership training and coaches coming to talk to us. So it's like one of those things, I made Black Engineer of the Year a couple times. And so I was recognized for my performance. And so I got picked to go on this, right? And it's very slim pickings with that. And I just was I felt like everyone, I was dodging those questions about where'd you come from? How'd you get here? What do your parents do? What do you do? And I was embarrassed to say that I, I'm only 15 years so older than my son. So to have to answer those questions that didn't align with the affluent family house, I didn't feel like I belonged. And then when I was there, the structure of that place reminded me of when I was displaced out of my home growing up, and I had to go to foster homes or group homes. It reminded me of that. And I was isolated. So I broke down in there. It was the first time I realized as a professional, I had gotten so far on paper, but inside I felt like I didn't belong there. And I really did earn that seat at the table with all those people from all those more advantaged backgrounds, but I didn't do the self-work. And I don't know if it was all my responsibility, but I'm going to take ownership of that. I didn't do all that self-work that needed to grow with me as I was advancing in my education and career. There's a lot of life skills and things that I needed to develop and deal with so that I can have a balanced, healthy, mindset or something when I do get to further in my journey. And so when I realized that I was having a problem accepting the fact that I earned to be there, I realized I needed to figure out some sort of therapy. And for me, writing has always been therapeutic. So I went and caught a cab or took my rental and drove to an Apple store, got a computer, and I was just in the room at that resort writing. And I was just getting things out. And then that's how my book started. So the first iteration of my book or edition was just me sharing my experiences, getting them out and trying to make sense of them and have some peace with them. And then the second edition was, well, how can I write this to help others? This helped me from a therapeutic standpoint, but I know there's others from that similar background that are going to face the same thing. So how can I write this to help them? And so to your point, it took some self-awareness and really some self-healing and some self-development to make sure that I was developing internally and personally along with my career. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Thank you. Again, thanks for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for asking.
Can I ask a question, Serenity?
Please.
So actually, I've got a couple.
Please ask.
But let me just start with what the question that I think is probably most meaningful, at least to me as a father and you as a mom. I mean, so it's like a two-part question. How much of this in you and the experience of developing and growing as a young mom has rubbed off on your son? And further, what's the relationship between, and if it's none of my business or our business, say so, it's fine. And you and I have talked, so we're very candid with each other. So what's the relationship now between you and your mom and your son? What's that dynamic like? So those are just two starting questions, and I have one more, and I promise I'll get off my soapbox as well.
I think my son, we grew up close, that's my guy, he's a mommy's boy. But I don't sugarcoat anything for him. So he knows he has him. He'll call me mom. He says I'm like his hero and I'm the best person. But he's like, you are the most brilliant, smartest, ratchet woman I know. Ratchet as in ghetto. I'm very matter of fact to him. I'm very matter of fact with him. And so my lived experience, I'm not going to sugarcoat to him because I don't want the world to get a hold of him and show him differently. So mommy's going to give it to him matter of fact. And he knows that, certain things, no matter how far I get in education, don't try it. But no, and I give him advice based on just real hardcore experience, and I don't fluff it. I just have never been that type of person, mainly because how I was brought up. My lived experiences were raw and uncut. And so that's how I give it to my son, but more peaceful, more diligent, because he didn't have to grow up like me. So I have to be careful with that. But I do give it to him matter of fact. And I think he has a great appreciation for that. He's learned about my struggle. He saw, his grandparents, right? And he saw the outcome and consequences of that. And then he experienced completely different with his father, who grew up, and his parents are still married today. He's, his father and grandparents and aunt and uncle, they were a big part of his life, and they were a cohesive family. So he got to see the difference. And I think he respected me for being able to navigate some of the challenges that he learned that I experienced. And I think he's thankful that he didn't have to see or know of the challenges that I was facing, but kind of working to not allow them to affect him and his well-being. He lives in California, and he may say sometimes I'm hard on him. I think because I have to wear mommy's hat, because we're so close in age, he thinks that, sometimes I'm at his level. And so I can be fun sometimes, but I'm mommy first. And so I can be hard on him. And he's at that age right now. He's 27. He'll be 28 in a few months. But he's at an age where, he's having to learn. I've shown by experience and example and advice, and he's taking a lot of it. He's taken his own journey to learn what he wanted. I was hoping he would go for civil engineering. He stopped it, and now he's pursuing a path in real estate. But it took a while for him to get there. And I had to sit back and show tough love so that he can get to a point where, okay, mom, I've tried it all these ways. I'm going to start listening. And it's so a little bit he's listening now, and a lot of that advice and just some of the examples that I've set is starting to rear its face in him. So I'm happy. I'm proud with the outcome. My mom passed away. So.
Okay, understood. Thank you. My last question is, when I listen to you talk, it reminds me of a theme that I adopted a little bit early on in my life, where it says, I said, I'm gonna work like others can't work, so I can live like others can't live. So those things are coming to fruition. Are these the things that have driven you, embedded in you, made that whole focus around you, that grind, that hustle, that I'm not necessarily going to step on your neck, but I got to get past here. So, like my coach in college used to say, Dave, either you go to them or you go right the F through them. So, one or the other, son. So, I mean, is that you? Is that how you operate? Is that, tell us a little bit more about Qiana in that regard.
Yeah, you have to have tenacity, and you have to have grit. And I knew that I was up against a lot of statistics. I was already put into a box and I had to fight my way out of it. So I was not one of those, I wasn't your average, probably, and there's so many different labels, female, Black female, young female. I wasn't that. I had the tenacity, and I didn't say this to brag or, or anything of that nature. But one example, or some examples that I have had to say, when people who had a different advantage, they were, and it's great, they'll highlight, I had it different, I had both parents and this and that. And it's like, where did that get them? I didn't have it. And, I achieved things that most, some fathers in most households and just typical America didn't have at my young age. And that was because of the tenacity and the mindset that I had to have, like, you either go to them or go through them. And so I had to do that. I had to carve my own pathway out, and I had to go and get it. It was never going to come to me. I would have been the last person they handed it to. So I had to take every day with that mindset and know that if I don't go get it and give it my best to go get it, then, I will be left, behind, or one of those people that can only just talk about it, but never make it there. I think
David, you're still on mute.
I'm just going too, right? I'm just going. I'm on my rant. But yes, Qiana, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Serenity, back to you. And when you're ready to close, I'll close the room if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm wondering if anyone else here has any other questions for Qiana.
Derek.
Okay. Yeah, Derek. Oh, Derek. Let's see. Just Derek. Let's see. You're still on mute and you dropped from video, but I think you may have had a question.
Yeah.
Can you see me and hear me now?
We can.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. That it wasn't a technical difficulty. It was an index finger difficulty on my mouse. But I just want to say, I'm in awe. Not putting you on a pedestal, because you didn't come from that. David and I come from humble beginnings, so we know about what it is you speak. But I can't say I had it that tough. And I want to commend you on, first I just want to say, God bless you for all that you do. And thank you for coming on today. I left a comment in there in the chat, because I've been in awe sitting here listening to your story about how you began, how you came through, who brought you through, who stood by you. And then it wasn't just you, you had your son, and you had your son young. So I applaud you for the diligence, perseverance, especially as a Black woman coming through an industry. It's tough. It's been to anybody who's a minority in in Cyversity will tell you it ain't been easy, and it hasn't. There's been forces that have tried to keep us out of this industry for years, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Sometimes you were what we used to call in my high school a fly in a glass of milk. You know what I mean? And I was that, and so was David. But I thank you for coming on today, speaking to us. You add a new spirit, whether you like it or not, whether that's what you were trying to do or not. You add a new spirit, a new face, and you add a refreshing new sense of tenacity towards in our profession to keep going. You give those of us who have been in the profession new life. And I appreciate that. And I want you to continue to keep going. David has always taught me brevity, so I'm going to make sure that I be brief right now. So I want to say thank you for coming on and speaking to us. And any other information that you have or want to impart to us or want help with from us, don't hesitate to ask and don't hesitate to impart. As he's going to tell you, you're already family.
Aww.
And with that, yeah, you're already family. And with that, you know, I'm on vacation, and this was worth me taking a break right now to come on and hear you. So God bless you, give you strength, and keep going. We're with you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Derek. That was very, very heartfelt. And this was great. You know, I didn't know what to expect coming into this. I was a little nervous, and I'm like, is this a place where I can just be real and be myself? And you guys did everything and more with that. And I enjoy it. Thank you so much for having me. Anytime you need me, I'm here. And it was so nice to just be able to come and talk to you all and feel your warm presence and hear all of the words of encouragement. Thank you so much. I'm really greatly appreciate it. And congratulations to everyone on this journey. You guys are awesome, because if it was easy, it would be more than the 13 of us on this call, right? So there is something very special said about you all. You are a chameleon. The chameleon or chameleonaire? Chameleon?
You're both.
Both. You're both. You're both. And when you stay the course, it will get better. It will get interesting, and you're only going to continue to get stronger. Yes, your eyes are going to cross, and your eyes are going to roll in the back of your head, because it does get that complex sometimes. You're like, why is this so complicated? But you will, a lot of this is repetition. Everything you're going to do is repetition. So it will continue to get easier and easier. Ask the dumb questions. Don't be afraid. Ask all questions and just keep trying. Don't be afraid to try. Create a sandbox. Practice some of those things that you're learning. And as you're learning, every time you're learning something, go and research, find the information about that, find the videos that support it, and just start making that a part of you building that lifestyle. But it's going to be so rewarding, and it's going to pay off to you. I'm very biased. IT changed my life, but you are in the best profession. We're going to be needed beyond, we're going to be there to the end, IT. So especially cybersecurity, it's only going to get even more interesting for cybersecurity, because of course this world is getting more interesting around security, right? Yeah. So you are in a position where you will have a lot of doors to go through if you see this through.
And I don't think that is respective of age either.
No.
Young people have a great advantage. Folks in my age group have an even greater advantage because of the miles on our tires that we've already gone through. There's Dr. George Fraser once said to me, and I put it up on the screen, and I gave this to my sons, and it's in one of my email signatures, that experience comes from good judgment, and judgment Well, that comes from a bad experience. So you should take that. Serenity, you mind if I continue?
Sure, please.
Thank you. So, Qiana, like you said, you couldn't have imagined, and this is being recorded, so we're gonna, you couldn't have imagined how great this conversation is going to be, and I could have because I've heard you before, but it's being recorded, so we're going to try to blast this out to as many people as we can to help give them the impetus and the strength and to remove that imposter syndrome. Like you said, you're here for us. You should know that we're here for you too.
Thank you.
Period.
Thank you.
Period. Period. Okay. Okay. So we're here for you too, period. I appreciate Laron's comment, Shamir's comment, and Zalea's comment in the chat. Michael, thanks for speaking up. In June, thanks for coming. El Haji, I love that term, because Malcolm X was one of my most favorites, and that was his first name. I absolutely love that name. Jason and Ian and Carlos, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And of course, Derek, if you put our pictures together, it's like those two guys look alike.
Hey, watch that, watch that.
That's because he's my cousin. So, and it's great to have family, and our family is rooted and based in, solid ecumenical faith. And so we, and when he speaks about God to you, dare I invoke God on this conversation, when we're talking about, commercial things. There's a need for God in the commercial world, simply because that is the integrity that you bring to the conversation. That's the honesty, the candor, and the integrity that you bring to the conversation. Say what you mean what you say.
Yeah.
Right? Very simply. So again, thank you for being here, and thank you for blessing us, and thank you for giving us, some time today. I put in the chat, everyone, the link for the survey. Please, please make a comment in the survey. You also, Qiana, make a comment in the survey so that we can, continue having other folks come here that are great. I'm just going to go back on screen for a minute as I close out here. Where's my on-screen thing? It's like navigating. Okay. But first, I want to say thank you to Serenity. Ooh, everybody give Serenity the big ups, yo! Serenity, getting Serenity is like, oh my girl, it's just like,
yeah, you're very special, Serenity. Thank you for making this so pleasant for me.
Oh, thank you, Qiana. It was my honor to interview you. Yeah.
So the rest of you,
Serenity, excellent job, Serenity.
Thank you.
I'm here with you. Yes, ma'am.
It's time for you to step up, Derek. And Carlos is gonna step up, and do some interviews. Hey, but listen, this is our link for the link. This is our link for this this is our link for the survey. Please make a comment. This is what's happening coming up. As I mentioned, next month is going to be Heather Grant Evans. She's a CISO from SailPoint. This conversation today will set you up perfectly for the conversation that you're going to hear next month from Heather. There's some serious parallels between Qiana and Heather, aside from the fact that they're women, aside from the fact that they're both exceedingly successful in their security field and in their own fields. And there are others, and when you hear them, I heard that from Qiana last week. Some very stark similarities. So next month, so come back next month. The month after that is Guillermo. He's the chairman for High Tech. Look up High Tech. Look him up, and you'll see that organization started by Guillermo, who was former senior vice president from Cisco. And what he's doing now, he's got a cloud spot, and he runs this organization here. After that, there's Danielle, and she'll be interviewed by William. And then, of course, that finger again, Derek, that finger, we'll be having the chapter presidents, and I'll put their images up. But in the meantime, I just wanted to thank you guys all for coming. Appreciate the time that we spent together. Qiana, if you don't mind, I'll give you the going away, closing out music, unless you want me to throw some Jay-Z on for you.
Actually, I just watched the Heart to Heart with Jay-Z on there last night. It was so
Oh
phenomenal.
yeah.
So good.
Oh yeah.
But no, thank you. I can't say echo this enough. It was great talking to you all. I'm inspired the fact that you guys are on this journey that's very unique and it isn't an easy one. So my hats off to you all for even just being here today at this point. And I wish you the best of everything. And just by speaking with you all and just seeing some of the comments and hearing your questions, you guys are going to be great. And just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, Serenity, it's you.
Thank you, Qiana. It was really a pleasure having you, and you've inspired so many people. You're going to continue to inspire because David's going to send us the recording to send out and share with everyone. And yeah, again, I'd encourage everybody to read Qiana's book and share it, so it can help other people. And best of luck to you on your continued journey, Qiana. I know you're just like continue to rock it up, to greater and greater things. So it'll be exciting just following you, see what you keep continuing to do, and really glad that you're just continuing to help other people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not just you, but those you inspire.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're not an island unto ourselves. We can do 2 or 3 people's work, but once you have a team behind you, I know we want to be part of that team. And excuse my excuse my Caribbean vacation background music as it travels by on a truck. But
it's so nice.
Yeah, it's my aunt's. It's our aunt's 90th birthday weekend, so I came down for that. But I just want you to know that we're jumping on your bandwagon of your team to be a part of your team, so that as David has already said, we're there with you. We appreciate you. We're there with you. Serenity, back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and it's just joining us here and asking so many wonderful questions, and just like lending your energy and supporting Qiana, and just continuing to be this community, this wonderful community that we have to share with each other, and that we can be real and encourage each other and share our experiences and get encouragement and advice. We really thank David for organizing all this and organizing all these other wonderful speakers to look forward to and that we've had.
Yeah.
So wonderful to be inspired and to know other people's journeys, right?
Yeah.
Because you probably feel, Qiana, if other people can do it, then you can do it too, right? And we didn't even have to have the same struggles, and it's interesting actually, like how many struggles we all have in common too.
And it takes a village, it takes a village. Now that I've the blessing in it all is that I overcame it. So now I'm a vessel to help others do the same. And we all are, right? We all have a role. And it ain't about us. I'm going to go, that's a matter of fact. It ain't about us. God spared us for a reason, because there's so many people like us who grew up like us. And now that he equipped us with the understanding and the compassion to understand their needs, and he gave us the success and the tools that we need, now it's our duty to go and help them. And so I'm just inspired that I was chosen to do that.
No doubt. How you like that, Louis? All right. I'm going to close the room, but thanks again, everybody. And next month, again, hey, listen, I should say this to all of you before you go. We always look to increase. And I know I sound a little bit rapacious about this, but that's okay. I always ask for something, so I'll never know if I don't ask. So I ask you all to go to your social media and say something about what we said today. Say something in your LinkedIn, say something in your Instagram, say something in your Facebook, and speak us up, because it's the only way that we're going to even get bigger. These conversations that we have are honest and real conversations. So, we want more people to come here so that our mentees can have the stage like Serenity did today, and speak truth to the honesty of power. So everyone, peace out, yo. As we say in Brooklyn, yo, that's what's up.
Have a
Yo,
good
that's what's
weekend,
up.
everyone.
All
Bye-bye.
right then. Bye.
Hi, everyone.